Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and start the recording. Yeah, we will definitely need to do this in webinar format next time. Sorry about that. But we will make sure that the transcript will be posted with the video recording. That's helpful. The things we learn as we do these. Well, should we go ahead and get started, Christina?
Yeah, I have just a couple minutes after 6. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive in. Do you want to go ahead and go to the next slide?
Sure.
So first of all, we just want to welcome you to the information session this evening on the rules for certified school-age childcare centers in Oregon. Today's session should be about 60 minutes in length. There will be time for questions at the end of the session, but please be sure to add your questions into the chat as we go along. We will try to answer those questions as we can, and those we don't get to by the end, we'll try to circle back and make sure we get questions answered. So these rules fall under Oregon's revised statutes, Chapter 329A for childcare. The rules were passed on June of 2022 and become effective on January 1st, 2023. The school-age center rule set applies to childcare centers that only care for school-age children, meaning children ages 5 years to 12 years of age. And we'll go into more detail about specifics of that as we work through the webinar. This rule set was developed with the feedback from many school-age programs to meet the unique needs of programs that care only for school-age children. And then specifically, these rules do not apply to any licensed centers that also provide care for children under the age of 5. Programs that care for any children under the age of 5 will continue to operate only under the certified center rules. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I will just take a couple minutes to do some introductions here. I am Christina Christian. I'm a regional manager with the Office of Child Care for the Tualatin Field Office. I work with a team of 12 licensing staff that support and license child care programs throughout Washington, Tillamook, and Clatsop counties. I've been in the field of early childhood education for over 32 years. I started as a teacher's aide at a local preschool in Eugene. I was also an after-school site director for several years in Eugene. Over the years, I've held many different positions and worked for many different organizations, which have led me here. I'm really proud to be helping support programs through childcare licensing.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cheryl Myers. I'm currently a senior licensing specialist with the Office of Child Care. What did I do here? Anyway, sorry. I started out working in a childcare facility and moved on to spend some time with Head Start, and then worked as a home childcare provider when my kids were young. Most recently, after doing home childcare, I worked for the Lane County Child Care Resource and Referral Office, and then came to the Office of Child Care. Spent a few years in the field licensing programs. Mostly I worked with registered family and certified family. But like I said, I do have experience working with centers. And now as a senior licensing specialist, I work to create and refine our resources and materials that licensors and programs use in their work. So during today's session, we are going to explain some of the key features of the school age center rules. You'll see that these rules are organized differently to help make information easier to find and understand. This is just an information session, so we're going to call out some of the changes in rules and highlight some of the new rules as well. We hope you'll gain lots of information today. Please refer to the School Age Center rule book for the full list of requirements and rules. Also available starting January 1st, 2023, will be a webinar video series that will provide a more in-depth look at each of the rule sections that we won't have time to cover today. So let's take a look at the agenda for tonight. We're going to start with an introduction to certified school age childcare rules and the Oregon administrative rules. We'll go over an overview of important changes in 7 of the different areas in the rules: positions and qualifications, program and staff records, training requirements, creating a climate for healthy child development, behavior and guidance, prevention and management of hazards, evacuation drills, and then we'll have, like Christina said, a time to answer as many questions as we can for you tonight. So just keep in mind that while we're reviewing key points, we don't have time to go through all of the rules in their entirety. So please make sure to refer to the School Age Center rulebook for the full list of requirements. So go ahead and add any questions that you think of in the chat or save them till the end, and we will try to answer them for you.
So what are the certified school age childcare rules? Well, these are a new set of rules that applies to centers that only care for school age children. Centers that also care for younger children must continue to follow the certified center rules. The purpose of the new rules specific to school age only programs is to protect the health, safety, and well-being of school age children when cared for outside of their own homes, with requirements that are appropriate for a center that provides care for school age children only. The new rule set can also be found on the Oregon Secretary of State website under the Oregon Department of Education, Early Learning Division, Chapter 414, Division 310 for certified school age centers. They can also be found in the Early Learning Division website at www.oregonearlylearning.com. I'm going to throw both of those links in the chat for you.
So on the previous slide, we mentioned the Oregon administrative rules. So we'd like to start out with just a little introduction to what the OARs, or the Oregon administrative rules, mean. So on here, you can see we highlighted the number from the table of contents of the certified school age rule book. The first part of this number is 414. In this example, 414 refers to the early learning division. So all the childcare rule sets start with 414. The second part of the number is the division number, and 310 is the division number for the certified school age childcare centers. So each early learning division rule set has a unique division numbers. So you can see on here, division 300 is the certified childcare centers, and division 310 is the certified school age childcare centers, and so on. The website listed here is the Secretary of State website. This is where you can find all of these different rule sets anytime you need to access those. So the third part of the OAR number in our example is the rule section of the rule set. So 0190 in our example is the rule section for children's records in the certified school age childcare centers. So children's records will be under probably a different set of a different number in the other rule sets. But in the school age center rules, it's 0190. Information located under 0190 will include all the sub rules that have to do with children's records. So now that we've reviewed more specifically what the OAR numbers mean, let's dive into the school age only rule set.
So just talking specifically here, what is a school age childcare center? Well, the school age center rules define school age center as a childcare center that provides care only for school age children who are eligible to be enrolled in kindergarten or above in the next school year, and which does not include night care. That's a specific point here, and just you can see here, night care means care that's given between the hours of 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. or when an enrolled child sleeps for more than 3 hours at a center. Let's review some key highlights and changes. So over the next few slides, we're going to review some of the changes to the rules and some that are new to the school age rule set. This is just a limited overview, so not all rules will be reviewed. Please remember to refer to the rule book for the complete list of rules. So we'll start with a couple important changes. School age centers must have written approval by a state or a local fire code official within the last 2 years of the renewal date. This is a change. Fire inspections in certified centers are currently completed once a year, but under the school age center rules, a fire inspection will happen every 2 years. Also, many of the notification timelines have changed as well. For example, serious injuries and incidences must be reported to the Office of Child Care within 24 hours or by the next business day. Previously, the timeline was 5 days for these.
So as you can see from this slide, there are many policies that the school age only centers will need to have in place. The Office of Child Care has created a resource list of required policies as stated and outlined in the rulebook policies section. Each school age only program should review the full list and make sure they have written policies for each of the topics listed in the rulebook. Sharing information with staff, volunteers, and parents about your policies will be much easier if you cover all of them in your volunteer and parent handbooks. So some of the changes to the required policies that you'll see include policies. You need to have a policy regarding safety measures, including injury prevention, use of pesticides, and other potentially toxic substances, animals or pets that may be on site, water activities, and prohibited substances and weapons. Another is a policy regarding center-sponsored religious and cultural activities, if any, including how holidays will be recognized. So this policy supports transparent communication with families. Parents and caregivers who know more about the program's activities and celebrations will be able to make informed decisions on if the program is a good fit for them. You'll also need to have a policy regarding communication methods and notifications, including how parent grievances, questions, or concerns are handled by the center. You'll need to have a plan to ensure safety of children who are using the restroom or completing a task separate from the larger group without direct supervision. And these are just a few of the policies that we wanted to highlight.
So let's talk a little bit about positions and qualifications, because these have changed. So there's new information here. So we're going to take some time and go through them. School age centers will now have 3 position titles. There is a program leader. They are responsible for the supervision of their assigned group of children, the supervision of any assistant program leaders or volunteers, as well as maintaining compliance with all school age center rules and all conditions on the license when the program coordinator is not present. There's an assistant program leader. They must be at least 15 years old. They must be within sight and sound of a staff person who meets the qualifications of a program leader if they are under 18 years of age, or they may be within sight or sound of a staff person who meets the qualifications of a program leader if they are age 18 and older. The third position is a program coordinator. They designate a program leader for each site. They may also serve as a program leader if certified for less than 45 children. The program coordinator must be available by phone at all times during childcare hours. Hold on this slide for just a minute, Cheryl. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the qualifications here for these positions. So qualifications for a program coordinator. They must be at least 21 years of age. They need to meet all the initial and annual training requirements. They must have at least 1 year of experience in supervising adults and have verifiable knowledge of child development for school-age children, which can be evidenced by a combination of professional references, education, experience or training, or a completion of training listed in table 1, and I'm going to get there, hang tight, within 90 days of hire. And the next slide is going to show you a couple of tables, and we'll get there. Hang tight with me for just a moment. Qualifications for program leader. They must be at least 18 years of age, meet all initial and annual training requirements, and meet the experience and training qualification requirements for the assigned age group of children in the program leader's care in one of the options listed in table 2. Qualifications for the assistant program leader are outlined here on the slide. They have to be, they must be at least 15 years of age, and they do have to meet all the initial training requirements as well. Let's go to the next slide, Cheryl, so we can look at those tables. So on the left side here, the program leader table 2 qualifications, you'll see there's 4 options here for those qualifications. Option number 1 is 60 hours of experience working in the program and completion of 20 clock hours of training completed within the last 5 years focused on school-age childcare that meets the following core knowledge criteria. They must have 5 hours in understanding and guiding behavior, 5 hours in learning environments and curriculum, 5 hours in human growth and development, and 5 hours in program management. Option 2 would be to have at least 240 hours of qualifying experience working with school-age children in the last 5 years in a certified child care center or comparable group care program. Option number 3 is to have at least an AA degree in one of the following fields: early childhood education, child development, elementary education, special education, physical education, recreation, human development, child and family studies, or home economics. Cheryl, the screen you're sharing changed.
Oh, I wonder why I did that.
There we go. And then option number 4, they could also have at least a step 8 in the Oregon registry. And then the requirements under table 1 are for on the right side here under program coordinator. They must have completion of 20 clock hours of training completed within the last 5 years, focused on school-age childcare that meets the following core knowledge criteria. And again, they have the 5 hours in understanding and guiding behavior, 5 hours in learning environments and curriculum, 5 hours in human growth and development, and 5 hours in program management. The rule book does have additional information, and all of this is outlined in there around position qualifications and training requirements. So be sure to use that rule book for reference. And there will be additional supportive resource documents available on position qualifications that you can use to help document how people qualify for their positions. Oh, and I forgot to mention, we do have upcoming video webinar series that will be posted to our website at the beginning of January. They are webinar videos that will go into further detail of the school age only rule set, and they're sectioned out by, or they're divided up by sections of the rules. There's about 13 videos in total that will be posted, and they'll be there for you to view. And I mention that now because that's another way for you to kind of learn a little bit more about the rules. So those are coming.
Yes, and they're in Christina's lovely voice. So let's talk about program records next. One of the things that we wanted to highlight is that a school age center must have the parent or guardian review, update, and sign or initial the enrollment form at least annually. We want to make sure those are kept up to date, and we have, emergency contact information that is good. As far as personnel records go, these are the staff records. If your program has multiple sites, each location must have a paper or electronic file on site for each person that works at that location. So on site, you must have record of staff qualifications for the position they hold, verification that staff is currently enrolled in the CBR, documentation that the staff has completed an orientation, first aid and CPR training, and food handler certifications as appropriate. The complete personnel file with all of the requirements may be kept or stored at the program's main location as long as they're available upon request. So, like I said, staff records must be maintained for each staff in paper or electronic format and be available to the Office of Child Care upon request. So whoever is on site working would need to be able to access those when needed. A new rule is that a signed statement and dated by the employee showing that they have access to the center's policies and rules for the certification of school-age childcare centers must be on file. So we want to see this so that we know that the staff have reviewed the rules. They have the rules available to them and they know where to find them.
Still talking about requirements for staff records, we're going to talk a little bit about orientations. So staff records must include evidence of participation in an orientation. And something new about this is that all staff must have an orientation within the first 10 days of hire. OCC has created a tool specifically to help with the documentation of an orientation for the school age center rules. This document does include all items that an orientation must address with new employees. We have a little screenshot of it here. Again, this is one of the tools that we're creating and it's in process and will be published and then posted to our website, but it does cover everything in full. Now, you do not have to use, this is not a required form. So if you choose to use your own orientation document, that is perfectly fine. You just want to make sure that it does document everything that would be required to be documented in an orientation. If you use this form, everything is there. And so it's meant to help and be supportive for you. And then we did get asked a question that I thought was a great question in the first session yesterday that was held. I thought I would clarify here. We get asked about within the first 10 days of hire. Sometimes folks are hired or offered the position, but they don't actually start for like a couple weeks. Maybe they're waiting on their CBR enrollment before they can get started. We would use that point that they actually start in your program as that starting point for within the first 10 days, they have to have that orientation completed. Staying with just staff records and information on staff, initial training requirements. So program coordinators must provide verification to ORO that they have obtained 10 hours of training in the core knowledge category of program management, or they must obtain the 10 hours in their first year of hire. Initial training now includes the Foundations for Learning, which must be completed within 90 days of hire. Now, this is Foundations for Learning was rolled out this fall, and so lots of currently licensed programs are in process of getting that completed. If you had people and were in place before September 30th, you have dealt December 31st to complete that. And then going forward, all new hires have 90 days. Here is a picture of another tool that we are making. It is a training requirements overview for school age only centers. It lets you know kind of all the training requirements by position and when things are required for them. So this will be another tool that we will have available for you and posted to the website.
Those will be posted as soon as we can get them up there, but by January.
Yeah.
So,
Cheryl, one question, and I wanted to expand the orientation question in the chat this evening. One of the things is your orientation is also specific to your program. And so it's not, again, it's not something that OCC would be doing and can include more than what is documented there. Those are OCC's requirements of things they need to be orientated on. You may have additional things that you want them to go through in your program's orientation. So just something that kind of a point of contact of why programs complete their orientation with their new staff.
Yeah, one of the main things that needs to be covered during that orientation is your written emergency plan so that your staff know what's expected of them and what the procedures are, those type of things. So one of the new sections in this rule set is creating a climate for healthy child development. This new rule it has multiple components to it. We're just going to review part of it. And what it says basically is when communicating or interacting with children, a school age center must ensure that staff maintain a climate for healthy, culturally responsive child development. The school age center must ensure staff encourage positive interactions between and among children with techniques that are listed in the rule set. And there are lots of examples of what this can look like that are included in the rule. So please be sure to review the rules in section 414-310-0380. And if you have any questions, partner with your licensing specialist. They're here to help. And we do have some resources that will be available to help with this.
Moving on to behavior and guidance. Behavior and guidance strategies focus on positive guidance to help children develop self-control, self-direction, and respect for others. One of the things in the rules, next slide, please. Behavior and guidance rules are meant to focus on positive guidance strategies to help children develop self-control, self-direction, and respect for others. And there's several ways that are highlighted in the rules listed here. Setting up the environment for success with engaging activities that encourage positive behavior and self-regulation. Reinforcing positive behaviors with encouragement and descriptive praise. Supervising actively, taking steps to prevent problems before they occur and explaining safe, natural, and logical consequences related to a child's behavior. Helping children recognize and appropriately express their feelings and understand the feelings of others. Modeling and teaching social skills such as taking turns, cooperation, waiting, treating others kindly, and problem solving. And redirecting or helping a child change their focus to something appropriate when their behavior is unacceptable. We're moving on to a new section in the rules. This is around physical restraint. Physical restraint protocols. A school age center must have written physical restraint protocols. This would be the program's own written protocols. You develop them. The center must implement such protocols only when appropriate and after complying with all requirements for behavior and guidance and prohibited discipline. A school-age center must document and report any incident when physical restraint is used. Physical restraint must only be used if a child's safety or the safety of others is threatened and must be limited to holding a child as gently as possible to accomplish restraint, limited to the minimum amount of time necessary to control the situation, developmentally appropriate, and only performed by a staff member trained in the program's child restraint protocols. And Alicia has noted in the chat that a program may decide that their protocol is that they do not use physical restraint, and that is acceptable as well. So it's up to the program to make that decision. Physical restraint protocols, a staff member, additional physical restraint protocols, a staff member must not use bindings, ties, blankets, straps, or heavy weights, which also includes an adult sitting on a child, to physically restrain children. A staff member must intervene if they observe another staff member using inappropriate restraint techniques. You can see here a screenshot of a physical restraint incident report. This is another tool we've created to help you document for when you need to, if it happens that you have to use physical restraint, you are required to report that to OCC. This form includes all the information you would need to complete and provide to OCC. And there's even a notation box at the bottom for noting when you've made the report to OCC. The requirement for notifying OCC is within 24 hours or by the next business day.
Okay, so moving on to a different section of the rules, we're going to talk about prevention and management of hazards, just briefly. A school-age center and each staff person must recognize, address, or remove potentially dangerous items and situations using protective barriers to prevent children's access as needed. Staff must take responsibility to inspect the indoor and outdoor play areas and equipment daily for hazards, such as missing parts or broken equipment, sharp edges, splinters, and trash. And ultimately, safety is everyone's responsibility. We want all staff to realize that it's not just the program coordinator or the program leader, whoever's in charge is not the only person responsible for making sure that the environment is safe and healthy. Oops, too far. So part of prevention and management of hazards, a school-age center must ensure that all toxic or potentially dangerous items, such as cleaning supplies and equipment, poisonous and toxic materials, and flammable and corrosive materials, are stored in a manner that prevents use or access by children. So those are the key words. Stored in a manner that prevents use or access by children. Toxic substances must be stored separately from medication, food service equipment, and food supplies.
Let's talk a little bit about evacuation drills. There's some new things to note here. So another new rule is that within the first 10 days of the school year, or within the first 10 operating days after an initial licensure of the program is done, and they're not operating at the beginning of the school year, an evacuation drill must be conducted. This ensures that children and staff are prepared in an emergency right from the start of the school year. And let me just kind of rephrase that again. I think it was a little confusing. So evacuation drills must be conducted within the first 10 days of the school year or within the first 10 operating days after a program's initial licensure if they're not operating at the beginning of the school year. Fire drills must still be completed monthly, and another aspect of the emergency plan must be completed every other month. And those other aspects can include whatever is written into your emergency plan, but earthquake drills, lockdown drills, high wind drills, staff emergencies, child emergencies, whatever options you have written into your emergency plan, you can include that as one of your practice items.
And those required other parts of your emergency plan are included in the rules also. So the additional rule sections that we haven't discussed this evening include everything from the facility, play materials, medications, kitchen and food service areas, transportation. You can see them all listed here. Please be sure and read the school age only rule book for all the requirements. Additionally, the webinar series that Christina mentioned earlier will go into more depth and cover all of the rule sections.
Well, so now you're probably wondering, what do you need to do? Well, first of all, please don't worry. So your program doesn't need to do anything before January. You will continue to operate under current rules for certified child care centers until January. Then you will begin implementing the operating under the new school age only child care center rules. You continue to operate with your current license, and you will be your current license remains active until you're issued your next license. In the meantime, please continue reading the rule book, watch our website for additional resources to get posted and the new webinar series to be posted. Remember that we are here to support you during this process. If you have any questions, please be sure to reach out to your licensing specialist for support. The Office of Child Care will work with you on the implementation of changes and provide technical assistance during the transition. When are the rules effective? Well, certified school age center rules will be effective January 1st, 2023. All currently licensed programs that care for school age children only will be transitioning to the new school age center rules. These programs will receive a printed copy of the new rule book in the mail sometime this late fall, but before January 1st. If you have not received a copy of the rule book, please contact your licensing specialist to request one.
Those should have gone out in the mail.
They should have been mailed in sometime in November. So really, you should have received one by this point. So if you haven't, please contact your licensing specialist and they'll be happy to get one sent out to you. And then again, we've mentioned this a couple of times earlier this evening, but coming in January is a webinar video series on the new school age rules. This series will provide an overview of the rules, explain key features and how rules are organized, and highlight any changes in the rules or new rules. It'll cover some of the stuff we covered tonight, but it's going to include all sections of the rule book. So we have reached the point in the evening when we are opening up for questions and answers. I see we've got some in the chat. Let me see if we can go back here just a moment. So there was a question about whether or not can a regular provider take the trainings. I'm not sure if you mean like tonight's training. This is just an informational webinar. It's not an actual training, so it doesn't qualify for any training hours. It doesn't cover any specific core knowledge categories.
And the webinar video series will not be for training hours either. Those are just to support programs in getting to know the rules and starting to implement them. So there won't be any training hours for those either. They're just meant to help.
Got it. And I think we answered about that future trainings there. So Andrea, Alicia stated, like we expect to be very heavy on technical assistance. You know, some of the rules that have not changed that would be considered like a serious issue would be supervision rules, or unqualified, like somebody not in the CBR supervising children alone, like some of those things we would still have to move forward with potentially a citation. But like new rules, we're going to be doing a lot of technical assistance as we get new rules rolled out to you guys. And as you get transitioned, that's specifically as you start working with the new rules in your programs.
Allison, have we had, or Alicia, have we had any questions that we missed in the chat?
You've captured them so far. There's a new question from Beth, who asks, for school age only programs that operate in public schools, will OCC be doing outreach to the school superintendents, principals, and school boards?
Hey, Beth. At the moment, we do not have plans to do that. In particular, OCC does not often engage with public schools, in particular superintendents, principals, or school boards. That relationship is really held between the program and the school. And we are happy to partner with you if you have connections there, and happy to pass on any information that Oregon Ask might think is best.
We also worked closely with quite a few school age programs in developing these rules. And so the rules do have some changes that were included to support programs that operate in a public school. So previously, programs had to have an exception when they weren't in control of the playground and weren't able to meet some of those rules in the way that they were expected. And now there's some leeway built into the rule so that programs that are in a school facility and use a school playground won't be required to have an exception. So you'll want to look for some of those rules in particular that were built in to support programs that are in a school. Any other questions?
A question. Hannah here. You all had some forms, like the orientation checklist, and forms like that. Can you tell me where I would access those on the Early Learning Division website?
They are, go ahead.
So when you go to the website, there's if you go to news and resources, and there's forms and publications and childcare resources. I think, are they all being posted there, Cheryl?
Can you see my screen or just the PowerPoint?
Yep. Oh, there you go. Excellent.
So,
yep.
Oh, I can see.
It's right here on the ELD site under the childcare rules. You'll see we've posted this orange banner here, and all of the school age documents that we've been working on for you guys will be here.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And there's quite a few. I mean, if there's something that you need to document or, keep track of, you can be sure that we're working on materials to help make that easier.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wanted to respond to Barbara's comment in the chat as well. So Barbara, we did create these rules with the intention to make an easier pathway for school age recorded programs to get licensed if they choose to do so. We did engage with several school age recorded programs along the way in creating this rule set, and Boys and Girls Club in particular was one of the entities that we did engage with. I will say that the difference is that if you are licensed, you do have the opportunity to access subsidy and families who are receiving subsidy and employment related daycare. And so that would be one incentive to be able to serve those families, is to go ahead and get a license. So there are still several more health and safety requirements compared to being a school age recorded program, but we are hopeful that this creates an easier pathway and some flexibility for those programs that are operating in public schools in order to obtain licensure, serve those families, and we're hopeful that we've removed a lot of the barriers that school age programs often experience currently.
And the great thing about this rule set is there isn't all of the rules that pertain to younger children in the way. You don't have to sift through and figure out, okay, we don't care for toddlers, so these don't apply to us. This rule set is just school age material. Any other questions? Don't be shy. We're here to help.
Yeah, I think it sounds like there's something very specific there, and it looks like Beth and Barbara have a connection and they can connect, because I think that is something specific to that community and what's happening there.
Yeah, definitely lean on each other. It's good to find support in other programs.
We do have one more slide. I go to the next slide, Cheryl. So first of all, just thank you for taking time to spend with us this evening. We appreciate you being here, and we really invite your feedback on this session. We do have a session survey, and I'm going to drop a link to the survey in the chat. So if you can please take a few minutes to complete the survey. Watch for that webinar video series coming in January. They will be published on the website in that same area that Cheryl was showing earlier. And then, if there's additional questions that we haven't answered this evening, or that you have after this evening, please reach out to your licensing specialist. They are there to help support you. You can also call our direct line at the Office of Child Care, which is 1-800-556-6616, or email us at providercontact@ode.oregon.gov. Let me throw the survey link in the chat for you. Any other questions pop up while we were reviewing?
There was one question that Alicia helped answer in the
Okay.
chat. Aurora, does that clear it up for you? Aurora had asked, did you touch upon the new bathroom rules? I'm curious because I signed in late. Okay, great.
Great, perfect.
And there will also be a feedback survey to go along with the webinar video series. So, we'd love to get your feedback on those once you watch them also, so that we can implement even better next time. Well, if there's no more questions, I think we will call it an evening. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and please reach out if you think of questions later. You know, we are here to help, and so is your licensing specialist or your licensing team. So,
Yeah, thank you everybody for coming this evening. Really appreciate it. So,
and thank you, Alicia and Allison, for helping out. It's always good to have backup.
yep.
All right, well, have a good rest of your evening, everybody, and take care.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.